Hi, I'm Faith Cantor and I'm author of the book Living a Life Less Toxic. I recover from chronic fatigue syndrome, ME, after about 6 years, and I did it with a whole life approach to detoxifying. So I tried a little bit of everything here and there, and realised that what was working was detoxing mind, body, and home. So I just wanted to give you my top tips for recovering from ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, any sort of fatigue in general, and a lot of other illnesses as well. And my top tips, tip one is to meditate. So not just meditate, but visualize and be mindful. It all sort of falls under the same bracket. And why I recommend this is that most people with these sorts of illnesses, the sleep patterns all over the show. You might be sleeping loads during the day or not at night, or hardly at all like me. I was lucky if I get a couple of hours at a time. And you're just exhausted, because when you are asleep, you're not sleeping efficiently, and you're not sleeping, in as we should, at night, and you just basically, for most people, even if you weren't in that fight or flight response before your illness, you almost certainly are once you've become ill, because of the stress and the upset and the pain and all the other things that go along with being ill for a long period of time. So what I mean by meditating is, I know a lot of people that I speak to, they say, "Oh, I can't meditate," and I was exactly the same, because I thought you had to clear your mind, and I thought, how on earth am I going to do that? My mind's sort of constantly on the go, even when I was exhausted. Um, and it's not about clearing your mind; it's about just stepping out of that worrying about the past, focusing on the future. Um, you know, Worrying about all the aches and pains and all the other things that is going on for you. So the way I like it described is that you become an observer of your thoughts. So the thoughts can still be there, and they can come and go, like through your mind as you're meditating, but actually you're not in the thought. You're not feeling every bit of that thought. You're just observing it, just like clouds. That's how to think of it. If you start thinking whilst you're meditating, don't give yourself a hard time. Just almost take a step back from it, and actually think to yourself, okay, that's just a thought, and then let it go. And also, I know I used to use meditating when I couldn't sleep in the middle of the night. And initially, I thought, oh, well, that means I'm not meditating, because quite often it would send me off to sleep when I started listening to a guided meditation. But actually, that's just what your body needs at that time, if that's the case. If you manage to meditate, brilliant, because it's doing you tons of good. It's bringing down your stress and anxiety. It's helping with overall health and well-being. Brings down blood pressure, all sorts of things, which I'm sure you know about. But if you do fall asleep, then that's great as well, because you're probably not getting enough sleep. So either way is great. So if you use it to help you go to sleep at night and you only manage to listen to a short amount, that's fine. If you're using it in the middle of the night when you can't sleep, that's fine. But also try and use it during the day, and use it to when to bring that stress or anxiety down. If you're in sort of the zone, you're worrying about your family, or what burden you feel like you are, or whatever it is, then do some meditation. Pick some good guided meditations initially, because they keep you grounded and focused, and you're less likely to wander then. And then just also remember to swap them out occasionally, because eventually you'll find you're not even listening to them. It's just sort of a little noise in the background. So swap them around. Check on YouTube. There's hundreds of thousands of free meditations on there, so you can do a different one every day. But also remembering to visualize as well. Visualizations are really important because we spend most of our day when we're unwell thinking about how unwell we are, thinking about all the pain and the other symptoms, that IBS or whatever it is that we've got going on. So when visualizing, doing some visualizations of us being fully well and healthy is really, really important, because it starts retraining the brain. It starts strengthening those pathways within the brain about us becoming well again, and it stops to strengthen the pathways in the brain about us being unwell. So if you can occasionally, whilst you're meditating or as a separate time of day, just do a visualization on visualizing completely and fully you being completely well and what you want to do. You visualize, I don't know, you're walking up a mountain or canoeing or cycling a bike, whatever it is, but feel it fully within your body, every cell of your body, and really make that a practice that you do every day. And it really helps with the subconscious. It's really going to help you start to believe that you're going to heal. So it's a really good technique to do. And then being mindful as well, because a lot of the time when we're unwell, like I said, we're always thinking about the past, the past or the future, or what we're doing with what burden we are, or whatever it is. So being mindful in the moment when you have got the energy to go and have a bath, brush your teeth, whatever it is. Be mindful of that. Don't allow your brain to use that time to then focus on the fact that it's just taken you ages to get the energy up to do that task. Actually focus on the fact that it's amazing that you've got running water to brush your teeth or wash your hair, and on the actually become grateful of the fact that we have these amazing things in our lives that like I said, running water, that sort of thing, that a lot of the world don't have. And if you start doing that, it makes you realise actually how important those little things are. And that was really key for my recovery. I spent a lot of time thinking I can't do anything and I'm missing out on all these things. And when I actually started to think, actually I can sit at the window and I can watch nature and the butterflies and the birds, and when I could, that really, really made a huge difference to me. Because during my busy life, I could have done that, but I didn't. I was completely oblivious to all these wonderful things that are happening on our planet all the time, that when you're busy, you don't notice. So just start to appreciate those little things, be mindful of those little moments, and appreciate them for what they are. My next top tip is tapping. Some people call it EFT, emotional freedom technique. There's lots of versions of it out there now, and for me it's a really, really important tool for certainly for my recovery and for the people I work with. When I first started tapping, I couldn't actually hold my arm up to tap. I had to prop it up on a pillow and do this, and even that would hurt after a while, so I would just do the bits I could. But for people that haven't heard about it, tapping basically it helps you break free of all sorts of things, from phobias to traumas to pain and illnesses and lots of stuff going on mentally. And you tap different meridian points in the body, and it basically dissolves the blockages that are there. And it's really great because it's not, although it's a bit like counselling, it's not, because you don't have to be in that moment for very long. So it's really good with people that have been through trauma and things. And a lot of the time, people that have been chronically ill for a long time have got some trauma to deal with. For me, I thought I dealt with a lot of mine, but when I started tapping, I realised that actually at a subconscious level I was still reacting in lots of ways, and there was a lot of anxiety and a lot of self-hatred and things as well from some traumatic things that had gone on in my life. So I used the tapping to help me deal with those things, but also to help me deal with all the day-to-day stuff, the pain and things like that. So I had a lot of pain in my neck and my jaw, so I used the tapping to figure out what was behind that, and it appeared that I was holding on to a lot of stuff, that especially around the neck area, that's things that I'd left unsaid. So it's really important to speak your truth, and if you can't speak it to the person, then do it whilst you're tapping. But basically anything negative that you're internalizing, that's going round and round in your head, just get out. You don't have to do the full routine, you don't have to get into the whys and the wherefores of it, so don't get put off by all of that. You can literally just tap the points. If you're too unwell to tap the points initially, just imagine yourself doing it, because most of the time the body doesn't know the difference, or the mind doesn't know the difference between you actually doing it and you actually imagining it. So you can imagine it to start with, and then you can just tap the points you find easy. Maybe this one will be easy. And you can deal with the traumas, you can deal with stress and anxiety, you can deal with pain, and it's really good to be dealing with secondary gains. So those are the things that are quite often holding us back from healing. So it might be that, if you heal, you'll have to go back to a stressful job, or you'll have to deal with some family members that you don't really want to deal with, or there might be some other things that are going on like that actually they hold us back from healing. And doing the tapping on those sorts of things is amazing. It clears all that stuff. It really does have a huge impact on our mental health, and thus on our physical health. So give it a go, and like I said, don't get hung up on all the whys and the wherefores and not having to do the routine. Just do anything, because any little thing is going to help, and once you start doing the little things, then it'll snowball from there. The next thing that I feel is really important is helping the body to detox, because we've been unwell for a long time, and often a lot of us have been in quite toxic either thought processes, relationships, or eating the wrong foods and burning the candle at both ends and things before we got unwell. Quite often our bodies are quite toxic, which is where a lot of other ME chronic fatigue treatments and things stem from, like the pairing technique. Although he deals with realignment, a lot of it is about detoxing the body. So assisting the body to detox is a really important thing. So one of the things that I find is hugely beneficial, and not just for people that are poorly, but just day to day with people, is body brushing. Now, body brushing, you don't have to have a special brush, and again, if you don't feel well enough, you don't have to do it all, but try and do something each day. And when you dry yourself, if you get out of the bath or the shower, or you put on lotions or potions, try and do it in the same direction. And you just brush lightly, like this. So even if you're laid in bed, you might be able to manage just, an arm a day, or a leg, or something. So you brush up the body, down the head, always to the breast area, just above the breast area, and that stimulates the lymphatics. And what I found is, when I was recovering from chronic fatigue syndrome, I still had quite a lot of muscle pain, even though I was feeling my energy had returned and things like that. And I realised it was because the lymphatics stop working effectively when you're long-term ill, especially long-term stressed in the fight or flight response. So what happens then is you get deposits of toxins and lactic acid and things throughout the body, especially in the muscles. So when I started the body brushing every day, initially I did feel a bit rough for a couple of weeks, because it's shifting lots of toxins that you've had on board for a long time. But after that, I noticed the pain started to go away, and I use this every day with all sorts of clients for all sorts of things, and every time I'm surprised by how effective it is if you keep it up. And I think everyone should be doing it, because generally in this day and age, we are surrounded by a lot of toxins, so it's a great way to help the body eliminate what's already on board, and also to keep eliminating what's coming on board as well. So you just make sure to brush up the body, down the head, always to just above the breasts. It's really important to do the sides of the breasts as well, because as you're stimulating the lymphatics coming up, it's going to come up through the breast tissue. And for some people, they do get a bit lumpy, bumpy and tender in that time, because you're shifting a lot of toxins through them. But just keep going, and after a couple of weeks that will clear. But it's really really beneficial. And any way you can get magnesium into you. I know most people can't tolerate supplements or anything, and to be honest, if you're taking supplements, it's likely that if you're taking them in a tablet form, you're not digesting them anyway, because your digestive system, for most people with ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, your digestive system's just not working as effectively as it should, so you're probably not absorbing most of it. So if you are going to take supplements, try and take them in a patch or injection, or a lozenge or spray, or something that goes in the mouth, so it's going to be absorbed there. But any way you can get more magnesium in you, so magnesium rich foods obviously is good, but what I found really beneficial was Epsom salt baths, and it can be Himalayan salts either as well. You can get them online in bulk and have them delivered, so you don't have to keep going down to the chemist or something where they cost a fortune. And you want to be putting like 3 mugs worth into a bath. Now, if you are sensitive, you might want to start small and build up to that. And then you want to be in there for about 20 minutes. And what it does is it draws out the muscle aches and pains, but it also puts in magnesium. And magnesium is really beneficial because it helps the body to detox. It also helps with sleep. And it also helps with the sympathetic nervous system, which is usually just on overdrive, and is across the back. So that's why a lot of people are getting pain across the top of the back. So it's going to help with all of those things, and it also helps with your uptake of calcium. So it's a really good thing to help with recovering from any sort of long-term illness, because most people are deficient in magnesium. Certainly everybody that I've come across and tested has been. And basically my next tip is basically to clean up your diet. It's easy when you're unwell to become reliant on stimulants and high GI foods, especially if you want to go out or something like that. But it's really you're just borrowing energy, and it's really not good for us. What we need to be doing is assisting the adrenals to heal. And doing that through diet, and then dealing with stress and things that, like I mentioned, with the meditation and the tapping, and not borrowing from ourselves all the time. So we want slow releasing foods. We want things, really eliminating things like caffeine and alcohol, and a diet high in white carbs and sugars, and fizzy drinks and things like that, and really having things like brown rice rather than white rice, sweet potato rather than white potato, quinoa, fruit rather than something that's like a pastry or a cake or something. And I know it's really easy and convenient to eat those sorts of foods, but it's really not benefiting your health. And so really doing things that are going to help clean up the diet is going to help you to have more energy in the long term. It can take a little while for the body to readjust, and certainly if you find that doing it all at once is upsetting you, then just do a little bit, because it can be quite a change for you if you're used to having a diet that is the opposite of what I've just said. So do it little by little, and if you have lots of symptoms and things, bring it back, and then start doing it slowly, it's always really important to listen to your body and do everything slowly if you're feeling rough in any way. The next one is really important, and that's to clean up the digestive system. A lot of people believe that a lot of long-term illnesses are now autoimmune conditions, and I tend to agree for the most part. If they don't start that way, they certainly seem to end up going that way, and that's when the digestive system is really out of balance. And again, that can be caused over many years through all sorts of things, from stress to eating the wrong, burning the candle at both ends, medications, all sorts of stuff. So most people, if they don't start when they've got their long-term illness with some sort of IBS type symptoms, they usually end up with them at some point. So cleaning up the digestive system is really beneficial because most of your immune system is based there. So it's going to help you with strengthen your immune system, and a lot of your happy hormones are there as well. So things like serotonin and things like that, they're all produced in, or mostly produced in the digestive system. I know that, once you've been ill for a long time, you can start to feel quite low and depressed from it. And that's because your digestive system is getting more and more out of balance, and you're not absorbing the nutrients from your food that you need, like a lot of the B vitamins and things like that, for good mood. So cleaning up and healing the digestive system is really, really important, and it had a huge impact on my energy levels when I started doing that. So again, you would do everything I already mentioned about starting to support the adrenals through cleaning up your diet, but then you would add in things like initially you would cut out any foods that you feel you react to. So for a lot of people, that's wheat and dairy and maybe tomatoes or gluten or whatever it is. Cut them out, and it doesn't have to be a permanent thing. Just for about 6 weeks, just to give the digestive system time to heal, and the enzymes that you need to you need to process those foods, to digest those foods, to start to replenish. So cut them out, so just give the body that time to heal, and then add in some natural sort of antifungals, coconut oil, ginger, garlic, that sort of thing. Fresh ginger's great, I have that in a tea every morning. It's a natural stimulant, it's an antifungal, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, anti-everything, so it's really great. So those sorts of things, and then add in some fermented foods. Now you have to go slow on these, and I wouldn't recommend initially any of the fermented drinks because they can sometimes be quite high in sugar. So you have to catch it just after the sugar's been eaten up, but before it starts to get a bit too acidic, and that can be a bit much for you to be dealing with when you're unwell. But certainly sauerkrauts, kimchi, fermented vegetables in any way. And by fermented, I don't mean the pickled stuff you buy in the supermarket. That's all been pasteurized. I mean actually proper fermented, how we used to store our food, basically. It's absolutely jam-packed full of probiotics, many billions more than any sort of little Yakult drink or any most of the tablets, which again you may not be absorbing. You can, if you can't make your own, or you haven't got anyone else to make your own, then you can buy them in packs of like 10 off of Amazon and places like that. If you buy them from a health food shop, they are expensive, so it is better to buy them in bulk online. But start very slowly introducing those into your diet, and I mean very slowly. If your stomach gurgles, that's good. That's the good and the bad yeast sort of fighting it out in the digestive system. But if you're finding that it's any more than a gurgle, that you're running off the toilet, it doesn't mean that you've got a reaction to it. It just means you've had too much, and that means that your digestive system is definitely very out of balance. So next time, just have a tiniest amount, and then keep at that, and then when you feel okay with that, up it slightly. But having those sorts of things every day is going to start to replenish the good bacteria in the gut, get rid of the bad bacteria, and help you absorb the nutrients from your food, help you digest your food better, help the replenishment of the enzymes in the gut, all sorts. And you can imagine if you start absorbing your food better and certainly the nutrients from your food, that's going to have a big impact on mental and physical health. So as well as, like I said, the immune system and the mood and all sorts of things. So it's really, really important. And the other thing that I find that just about everybody that I come into contact with that's been long-term ill, and not just from the sorts of illnesses I've been mentioning, but all sorts of illnesses, has got quite a severe yeast imbalance in the digestive system, and that's Candida. When you hear about it in other parts of the body, that's usually just secondary to what's going on in the digestive system. So when you deal with that, when you bring that back into balance, which can be easily done, you don't have to do a 2-year program where you have to stick to this diet for 2 years, which I don't know how anyone can do. There are much shorter programs that only take the ones I recommend to people take 3 weeks, and it has a huge impact on people. I see the difference in them. It's massive, and it's just about eliminating all the foods that the bad yeasts live on, and putting in loads of natural antifungals, and then after, you usually feel a bit lousy in that time, and then after about 3 weeks you know that it's cleared. Because the thing is, when the bad yeasts are growing inside you, they're creating toxins, so that the body's trying to deal with again. So on top of them upsetting the digestive system, they also create all these toxins the body's trying to eliminate, which is making you acidic, and the lymphatics not work effectively and things like that. But they're also interfering with a whole host of other things in the body, because they run right through the endocrine system. So they're upsetting all sorts of hormones, your thyroid, insulin levels, all sorts of things. So it's a really good thing to address. The next thing is understanding that all of your symptoms, when you start any sort of healing regime, you may find that you get rid of some symptoms, but then some others come up you never even realised you had. But it's understanding that every single symptom is an invitation for you to heal something. So if you start getting anxiety about the fact that you can't tap, or the meditation or whatever, then feel into that. Try and figure out why are you anxious about that? What's holding you back? What are you afraid of? And then try and heal that through maybe tapping, or a different way, if you're finding that difficult. And really understand that the pain in your body, if it's in particular areas, it could be related to like the neck not speaking your truth, or for some people it's in the legs, it's they're afraid of moving forward, or various other things. So every symptom is an invitation for you to heal something. So when you look at it like that, it makes that sometimes the symptom not feel quite so bad, and also makes you realise that perhaps there is something else that needs addressing. And then my last thing, and this is really important: never ever doubt that you'll heal. Stop reading all the horror stories about people that have to be drip fed and have been ill for 50 years and things like that. Yes, they're obviously they're important, but they're not going to help you heal. I know myself that when I started reading all those sorts of things, I definitely I plummeted, with my health. And when I banned myself from reading all those sorts of things and concentrated on reading recovery stories, not just for people that are recovering from what I had, but actually from terminal cancer, and babies that were born that they didn't think they were going to survive, and all sorts of other things, people in comas. When I started reading all those sorts of things and listening to their stories online and things, it really gave me a sense of hope. It really made me realise I can get well from this. And that's really important. And if you believe you can't, then that is certainly the first area that you need to address by tapping, or working with somebody with some sort of practitioner in a similar way. Because when you're feeling that you can't get well, that's exactly what's going to happen, I'm afraid. You're holding all of all this potential healing back. So really focus and really know that you can get well. People get well from these chronic illnesses day after day after day after day. And I know there's lots of people out there saying, oh, well, they couldn't have had it and this, that and the other. But, most of us have been diagnosed by, several doctors, several consultants, several nurses, had all the tests. It's easy for people to say, oh, well, they couldn't have had it. But you and me know that we have got it, or I did have it. So, believe fully that you can get well. Work on that. Say it as a mantra every day, give yourself permission to heal. That's a really great thing to start saying to yourself. I give myself permission to heal. I am going to get well. I am going to get well now. And that was a real mantra for me. And that's one thing I tap on quite regularly, and I get a lot of my clients to start there as well, is really knowing that you're going to get well, because you are. Because, like I said, people do every day. That's my top tips for now. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, then you can just pop them below the video, or pop over to my website and fill out the contact form. And thanks. Bye.